Okay. So, as you all know, the LMS is still not up. So, those who have joined, you people write your name in the chat box and I will accordingly give your attendance. Once the LMS system is up on that day, I will be able to give all the pending attendances. Okay, you people write your name in the chat box. Okay. So, let's start off with today's class. So, in the last class, we were talking about the shortcomings of the classical waterfall model, right? So, we were talking, oh, sorry, let me switch on to the red one. We were talking about the shortcomings of classical waterfall model. Can anyone say what are the shortcomings we were discussing? The first one was anyone, please. The first shortcoming was
No feedback path.
right. The second one was
Ma'am, difficult to accommodate charge request, change request.
right. Right. The third one. Oh, I haven't discussed the third one yet, na? Only these two I have discussed, na, in the last class. Then the class got end, na?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Oh, ठीक है. So, feedback path, there is no feedback path since this going back from one phase to another is not there. So, this is the most important and noticeable error. And the next is, since there is no feedback path, so it always assumes that one phase has been completed and it is perfect, it is error free, and we will move on to or switch on to the next phase. So, in to go back and accommodate some change requests by the customer, it is very much difficult. Next is inefficient error corrections. Okay. So, since this error, since it is thought always that one phase is error free, so it is thought that my feasibility study is error free. I moved on to the next stage. It is thought that my requirement analysis and specification is error free. I move on to the next stage. My design is error free. I move on to the next page. Then when I do this in coding and unit testing, it may arise that few errors have been found, or I have reached and performed this integration and system testing as a whole. I find that few errors is found and few error corrections are required. But since there is no feedback path, there is difficult to do any change request part, so it leads us error correction methods or error correction probabilities, they are also inefficient. Error correction is directly linked with the concept of 1 and 2, whatever it is written in 1 and 2 numbers, it is directly related to there. So if it is thought that every phase is error free, then what will be the point in doing this error correction, right? So obviously error correction is an inefficient thing. And the fourth one is, okay, so this classical waterfall model, it says that the phases has been carried out sequentially and new phases can start only after the previous phase is complete. This is the concept. But however, we all know that practically it is rarely not possible. So since it is rarely not possible, it leads to a large number of team members. For example, in order to do efficient utilization of this manpower, the testing team, they might need to design the system test cases immediately after the requirement phase is complete. So in this case, what happens is the activities of one phase will overlap with another. So if I always think that one phase of mine will be complete and after that only another phase will start. So what will happen? Till the time the project manager is doing the feasibility study phase, all the other person related to the project is sitting idle. Or till the time the developer is developing the code and doing unit testing, the person who will be doing the integration testing and the system testing, they are idle. So manpower is lost. So it is very much required in real world to overlap the phases so that parallelly the work is progressed and parallelly the work is delivered to the clients in lesser amount of time. But this overlapping of phases concept is not there in this classical waterfall model. Okay. So these are the four main shortcomings of any classical waterfall model. Now, when we will study the next model, that is the iterative waterfall model, still we will see that few shortcomings of this classical waterfall model are still existent in the iterative waterfall model. Okay. So what happens is nowadays all the
मैम फोर्थ
agile,
पॉइंट फिर से समझाइए ना।
हाँ बोलो,
मैम फोर्थ पॉइंट जो नो ओवरलैपिंग ऑफ फेजेस लिखा हुआ है उसको फिर से रिपीट कीजिए ना,
हाँ
मतलब उसका मोटिव क्या है?
हाँ, चीज ये है कि सपोज मेरा फिजिबिलिटी स्टडी, यहाँ पे क्लासिकल वाटरफॉल में मॉडल में कॉन्सेप्ट क्या है कि एक फेज कंप्लीट होगा, उसके बाद ही नेक्स्ट फेज स्टार्ट होगा। तो मेरा जब फिजिबिलिटी स्टडी फेज चल रहा है, मेरा प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर क्लाइंट के साथ बात कर रहा है, तो जो जो लोग मेरा प्रोजेक्ट के भीतर है सारा लोग आइडियल बैठे हैं, क्योंकि फिजिबिलिटी स्टडी फेज खत्म होगा उसके बाद ही तो नेक्स्ट फेज होगा। Suppose the people who are doing the design phase, so the people who are doing the coding phase, they will sit idle. And also the people who are doing the coding, the people who are associated with the system and integration phase, they are also idle. So till one phase is complete, the next phase won't start. So it leads to a problem that misutilization of resources. So majority of the people, they are idle for a majority amount of time, since ये parallel नहीं होता है. But in real world what needs to be done is overlapping of phases needs to be done, that is parallel execution of few phases needs to be done. Suppose once one component in design is designed, one component of my software product is designed, at least I can start coding that component and not wait till the entire design of my software product is done. Or suppose one module of my program is coded and unit tested, suppose another module which that module needs, that is also coded and unit tested, so I can at least integrate these two modules parallelly and start the integration process and not wait till my entire module of programs is finished. So this is the concept, that is overlapping of phases means that parallelly when one phase is going on, another phase can also go on a little bit. This concept is not there in this waterfall model, due to which what happens is, like, 1 minute, let me take the screenshot. Due to which what happens is there is a delay. So practically this delay is not possible. When we think of real world projects, this delay is not possible. It may not happen that people related to a project, one portion of the people they are sitting idle for 1 month, and the others are doing, and the other is sitting idle for 2 months, the rest are doing. No, this cannot be the thing. Everyone needs to do something parallelly. But this parallel execution of phases, that is overlapping of phases concept, is not there in classical waterfall model. Now is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the question that comes is, when we are saying that this classical waterfall model is not useful at all, then why are we studying? That we have discussed why are we studying, but there must be some use where this classical waterfall model is used still. Okay, so I can see 16 participants, so but I cannot see sorry, 15 participants, and I can see 13 messages. So rest two participants who have not yet written your name in the chat box, kindly do that. Okay. So we have already pointed out that it is hard to use the classical waterfall model in real projects. So for software development process, it is hardly usable. But one scientist, he suggested that final documents for the product should be written as if the product was developed using a pure classical model. That is, the final documents which we will document, they should be documented as if the product has followed a classical waterfall model. So irrespective of the life cycle model that is actually followed for a product development, the final product development documents, they are always written to reflect a classical waterfall model of development, so that comprehension of these documents becomes easier for anyone reading the document. Why is that? Let me tell you. Suppose I am deriving a formula, and there I have initiated from one point. I have done a few calculations. At some point, I have done mistakes. I have crossed out. I have backtracked. I have again find out the errors. I have again remodeled. I have again backtracked. And after all these things, I have come up with one formula. Now, if all these things is represented to the user, or to the or to the other development team, they will become puzzled, because this tracking, backtracking, error checking, error correction, everything which you are documenting, it is not needed for the user to read. User should be able to see that I have a problem, and to solve that problem, I have a formula which was invented using a few steps. What are the few steps? Suppose first the problem is gathered from the user, then analysis of the problem is done, then some coding is done, then some error checking is done, some testing is done. After that, I have derived a formula. This should only be documented to a user, rather than there is a problem, I have done analysis. In that analysis, I have done a coding. When I was doing the testing, I found some errors. I again backtracked to the code. I again backtracked to the analysis. Again, I started with the analysis. Again, I went a different code. Again, I did testing. Now my testing is okay. Then and this, and last step, I got the formula. So this also is giving me the final formula. This document is also giving me the formula. But you say which one is easier for a user to understand? This one, na? This one is the simpler one. The easier for the user to simply just see and understand that this is my problem, analysis, testing, coding, and so on, my formula. So all the intermediate things, all the haphazard things which the development team has done, that need not be documented for the user, right? So the final document, they follow the classical waterfall model approach. That is the intermediate, all those deductions, proofs, convoluted set of atoms, then backtracks, all these things it doesn't require. The last thing is required. So now is it clear in which field or in the software engineering field in which exactly in which specified thing this waterfall model is followed in document preparation? Is it clear? At least say a yes or no. How will I understand else?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The next one is the iterative. Okay. The iterative waterfall model. So it is pointed out that in a practical software development project, the classical waterfall model is hard to use, but for documentation purpose, we should always be using the classical waterfall model approach, irrespective of any model which will be using to implement the development process, because it is easier for a user if I represent this entire approach in a series of sequential steps. It is easier for a user to understand. Okay, so this iterative waterfall model, it is incorporated the necessary changes to the classical waterfall model in order to make it usable in this practical software development project. Okay, so the main change that is brought about by this iterative waterfall model to this classical waterfall model, it is in the form of providing feedback paths. That is, from every phase to its preceding phase, there should be a feedback path. So, how does it look? Then we have, I am writing in short form, okay? You have the requirement analysis and requirement specification phase. Then I have the design phase. Then I have the coding and unit testing phase. Then I have the integration and system testing phase. Right? And then I have the maintenance phase. Right? So this was the concept of waterfall model. And when I say that every phase will have like feedback paths from every phase of its preceding phase. So if I draw that, so from maintenance there will be a feedback path to integration. From maintenance there will be a feedback path to coding. From maintenance there will be a feedback path to design. From maintenance there will be a feedback path to requirement analysis. So every phase will have all its preceding phases feedback paths. But one notice you will see that there is no feedback path to the feasibility phase. Now why is that? So these feedback paths they are produced, and why are these feedback paths produced? They allow for correcting the errors committed by the programmer during some phase as and when these are detected. Okay, so suppose I have reached this step and I have found that I have done some problem in coding phase. Then I return to this phase and see that what was the design. I thought that, oh, my design is okay. Then I return to this phase. I thought, oh, I have made a mistake in my design. That is why my mistake is coding is happening. That is, whatever requirement was specified in this requirement analysis, exactly at one portion of this specification, I made a mistake, due to which the design phase also had this mistake, and due to which my coding phase also is having the mistake. So one error in coding phase, I backtracked and went on to this requirement analysis phase in order to find out where the beginning of the error has occurred. So this provision should be there. That is, this feedback paths, they allow for this correcting the errors which are committed by the programmer during some of the phases. That is, as and when these errors are detected, suppose in the later phase. Suppose, as I said, if during the testing phase a design error is identified, then what happens? Then the feedback path allows the design to be reworked on and the changes to be reflected again in the design documents and all other subsequent documents. So all the changes needs to be reworked. It should be reworked, and again the change should be reflected in the design document. Okay, so the point which I was saying, that there is no feedback path to the feasibility studies stage. Why is that? This is because once a team is accepting to take up a project, it has accepted to take up a project, it does not give up the project easily due to legal and moral reasons. So if I am accepting that I have done a problem in the feasibility phase, then the entire project is crashing, the entire organization is crashing. So feasibility phase is done very minutely, and once the feasibility phase is locked, any other phases will start, and also there will be feedback paths, and that is to go back to the previous phases. But there should not be any feedback path to the feasibility phase, because it is thought that when the project has started, that phase needs to be error free in order to run the project. If that phase is content of errors, then what is the what is the um, what will I say, what is the trust of this organization? They are doing a wrong feasibility, then there is no trust in giving project to the organization. So since this will have moral values and ethical values attached to, so feasibility phase there is no feedback path. Okay, so the uh, models which we will be studying further on in our different classes, so you will notice that all these models, they are iterative in nature. Okay, all the models, majority of the models, they are iterative in nature, except the few, that is this classical waterfall model and there is this V model. These two models are sequential in nature. So the sequential nature model's concept is, in a sequential model, what happens is, once a phase is complete, no work product of that phase can be changed later. So waterfall model and this V model, these two are sequential in nature. More or less of the models which we will be studying, like iterative waterfall model, then we have prototyping model, we have spiral model, we have incremental development model, we have evolutionary model. So all these different models which we will be studying, these are iterative in nature. Okay, feedback paths are there from one design to another. So is this concept clear about this iterative waterfall model? Is there any question? Okay, so I suppose there is no question, so I will move on to my next topic. The next topic is, you will hear this term a lot of time, that is phase containment of errors. Okay. So what is the concept of phase containment of errors? So no matter how much careful a programmer may be, he might end up committing some mistakes while carrying out a certain activity in this entire life cycle. So these mistakes, they will result in errors, right, or faults, which we are saying. So the mistakes which the programmer commits, because he is also a human being, it is not that he won't be committing any mistake. So these mistakes, they result in errors or they result in faults or bugs, whatever you may call. Okay, so in this work product, they result in this. So it is definitely advantageous to detect these errors in the same phase in which they take place. So always try to detect errors okay. So suppose the thing is, suppose you have done up, you have learning the tables in class 6, and in subsequent, suppose you did not learn the table in class 6. When you went to class 7, you saw that if you would have learned the table in class 6 up to at least 10, 1 to 10, it would have helped you. Then again, when you went to class 8, you realized that if you would have learned the table of 11 to 20 in class 7 itself, then it would have helped you. So, the best way is you detect the error in the same phase in which it is detected, and you correct it also. So early detection of this error, it will reduce the effort and the time required for correcting those. So early detection of errors, okay. So why is that? Suppose there is a error which is found in the design phase, but it is not found in the design phase. It has been found later on in the integration test phase. So I need to correct it in the integration phase. I need to correct my coding phase. Again, I need to correct my design phase. So obviously, it will take more time. It will take more effort. So if I detect my errors in the same phase in which it is taking place, and if I this early detection of errors will help me correcting those errors in the same phase, then it will definitely reduce the time and the effort required. So if a design problem is detected in the design phase itself, then the problem can be taken care of much more easily than suppose if the error is identified say at the end of the testing phase. So in the later case, what happens it would be necessary not only to rework on the design phase, but also like redo the relevant coding phase, redo the relevant testing activities. So this will incur a higher cost of effort, that is manpower, and also of time. So it may not always be possible to detect all the errors in the same way in which they are made. It is true. But nevertheless, it may not happen that we always detecting errors in the same phase may not always be possible. It is true. But at least errors should be detected as early as possible in our any of the phases. Now, the principle of detecting errors as close to their points of commitment of errors as possible is known as phase containment of errors. That means, okay. So, what is the definition of this phase containment of errors? That in detecting the errors as close as possible to their points of emergence, it is known as phase containment of errors. Okay. So this is the concept of phase containment of errors. Now we will move on to the next concept, that is phase overlap. Okay. So this strict classical waterfall model, they always do the transitions after one phase is complete, that is they will move on to the next phase only after one phase is complete, right? So this overlapping of phases concept, it came, that is overlapping of the different activities of the phases, it came mainly due to two reasons. The first is like, in spite of the best effort made to detect the errors in the same phase in which they are committed, still some errors will escape this detection process and they are always detected in the later phase of the activities. So these detected errors, they cause the activities of some already completed previous phases to be reworked. So if we consider such rework after a phase is complete, we can say that the activities that is related to a phase, they do not end at the completion of that phase, but they overlap with other phases. That means, suppose some errors have bypassed my eyes and they are detected in later on in integration stage. So when that error is of design phase is detected in the integration stage, I will have to do the rework on the integration phase, coding phase, design phase, like this. So when this rework is complete, that is, until and unless the rework of coding phase, the rework of design phase is complete, we cannot say that the error which is detected in the integration phase, that is complete, right? So in order to complete the error, to correct the error in the integration phase, rework needs to be done in design phase, reworks need to be done in coding phase. So until and unless those reworks are done, this integration error detection, error correction is not complete. So error detection correction from one phase is also dependent on two other phases, right? So definitely these two other phases, that is design and coding, they are overlapping with the integration phase. So this is the concept of phase overlap. Is it clear now? Is it clear? Yes. Another thing is, another point is, which I have just explained, that is, suppose usually the work it is required to be carried out in a phase, it is divided among certain team members, right? So some members may complete their part of the work earlier than the other members. So if this strict waterfall phase is happening, so transitions are maintained, then what happens is the team members who have completed their work early would sit idle waiting for the other phases to complete, and they will be in a blocking state, right? So suppose my integration, there is a team and my design phase team is still working on, it has not finished its work. So obviously the members in my integration phase, they will be sitting idle. Why? Because the second phase only have not finished. First the second phase will finish, then the third phase will finish, then the fourth phase will start, and then the people related to fourth phase will start their work. So they will be in a blocking state. So the developers who complete their things early would be idle while waiting for the other team members to complete their assigned work. So this is a waste stage of resources. Clearly it is a waste stage of resources, right? And also it is inefficient, also it is not cost effective, it increases the cost. So as a result, in real project, the phases are always allowed to overlap. That is, once a developer completes his work assignment for a phase, it proceeds to start the work for the next phase without waiting for all his team members to complete their respective work allocation. So I will be assigned with few work from each stages. Once I finish my work, I will move on to my next work. I won't wait for my other team members in all my group to finish their work. Then only I will start my next project. No. So these are the two reasons. One reason is definitely a phase overlap concept is always there, because when one correction from one phase requires correction in other phases also, so these three are related with each other, so our overlapping is definitely happening. And again, when some people are doing their work early, they should not sit idle in a blocking state. So this is a wastage of resources. So if I can do the phases overlap, can cause the overlapping of phases, so everyone can do their work parallelly at the same time without waiting for the other people to finish their work. Okay, so these are the main concepts of iterative waterfall model. But also, iterative waterfall model also have a few shortcomings. Now, even if the feedback path is there, another problem is that difficulty to accommodate the change requests, it is still there. Okay, so iterative waterfall model definitely overcomes the classical waterfall model, but other few other shortcomings of this iterative waterfall model are also there, which causes the other models to be invented. Okay, so this was all about today's class. In the next class, we will be starting with the shortcomings of iterative waterfall model. Then we will move on to the V model, prototyping model, and so on. Okay. So in today's class, the topics which we learned, that is the shortcomings of the classical waterfall model and why it is at all useful. Then the concept of iterative waterfall model. Then the phase containment of errors and phase overlap concept. Anyone has any problem in understanding? Anything needs to be said again? Okay. So I will stop here today. Thank you so much for attending. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.